And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. This is episode number 36. I think it's 36, maybe it's 37. I mean, depending on how you want to count it. Last week's episode was Shoulders, who's not here tonight. He will be on the show tomorrow when we record. But this is your good friend Jimbo. You could head over to Twitter and follow me there at Jimbo ST Sports, as well as the show at ST Sports Podcast. And something that has happened new to me, and something that is definitely new to me, is writing articles, blogs, whatever you want to call them, and you can find them at bellyupsports.com. It's not just myself. There's a bunch of other writers, writing about different sports, wrestling. I think I saw over on their website. I'm going to probably try to stay away from the main football topics because they're a lot better writers than I am. But, I mean, one sport that I'm definitely going to rely heavily on is bare knuckle boxing, which was last Saturday. It was bare knuckle boxing 4. I'll get into that a little bit in the show here. I thought it was a pretty entertaining card. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Flyers situation. Carter Hart playing lights out. We're currently on a 8-game winning streak as of tonight. They play a game tonight at I think 7:30. But news broke earlier today that Brian Elliott may be coming back within the next week or two. Chuck Fletcher making some moves with I always pronounce the guy's name wrong. Jory Laterra. Waiving him. He cleared waivers. So we'll get into that also. Some of the like Super Bowl and stuff like that. If you guys want to tune into tomorrow, me and Shoulders are going to talk a little bit about how great that game was, among other topics that we can discuss. I'll kind of keep it a secret to you guys, so you guys could tune in. So I'm going to just kind of jump into it here. So the Flyers situation, you guys know I'm a Flyers fan for a couple years now. I've talked about Carter Hart, I believe towards the end of last year, and even in the preseason, how I was really big on him. I mean, he had that outstanding career or games, whatever you want to call it, with the Canada team, and then in juniors. And the way he's been playing since he's been called up, it's just been lights out. Some of the saves he's making, you expect veteran guys making these type of saves. He's literally putting the whole team on his back and just carrying them. I mean, we're still a long shot to make the playoffs, but he's giving this team a fighting chance. And it seems like it's kind of rubbing off on the team as well to keep fighting, not give in. You see Wayne Simmons, Jacob Voracek playing a lot better. Drew's always played good. Well, at least the past 2 seasons since he switched over to playing wing. But two of the things that happened within the past couple of days was, I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday it came out that the Flyers waived Joey Laterra. And he ended up clearing waivers, so he's playing down now with the Phantoms, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, the AAA affiliate. Just like Del Weiss, he cleared waivers. I believe that was last week, and he's down with the Phantoms. Now, I thought maybe that move there was more of a what happened in the offseason with the being arrested for drugs and stuff like that. Until I saw he has 3 points through 27 games. I didn't think he was that bad. Like, I thought he was at least somewhat contributing, but that's me going out on the ice and getting 3 lucky shots or 3 lucky passes. For an NHLer, that's unacceptable. So it's definitely more of a performance reason why he got sent down. And then I saw earlier today that Brian Elliott may be back in the next week or two, which brings up a question. What do you do at goaltender now? You got Carter Hart, who's playing lights out. He's going nowhere. He may even taken the starting job now full time. But you have Anthony Stolarz up here, who just had a 35 shot save shutout just a week ago. So he's been playing better. What do you do with Brian Elliott? I believe Stolarz has to clear waivers to be sent back down to the Phantoms. So when I saw this move this report about Brian Elliott possibly coming back within the next week or two, now I'm starting to think, is it they sent Laterra down to the Phantoms to carry 3 goalies? Obviously, Brian Elliott can't stay healthy, at least the past year or so. You got Stolarz, who's playing very well. And obviously, like I said, Carter Hart's not going anywhere. I would personally probably say, carry all 3 goalies. Just because, again, Brian Elliott can't stay healthy. Stolarz has been injury prone as well. Now, here's one other scenario that could happen. Do you trade Stolarz or Brian Elliott? I think you'd get a lot more back with Stolarz, and I think Elliott is definitely a sufficient backup, a lot better than Neuwirth, ever was, except for that, 10-game win streak we did last year. So I would, me personally, if I was the GM, I would keep all 3 goalies on the roster, because again, if for some miracle, weird chance that we do keep going on this huge run and make the playoffs, you're going to need depth in goalie. So that's one reason why I would keep all 3. Now, the way Fletcher, the GM, is working things, I could see one of them getting moved, or waiving maybe Brian Elliott and then letting a team pick up his contract, or however that would work. Excuse me. But without a doubt, Carter Hart is definitely the MVP MVP of this team. When they played, today's Thursday. When they played, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday, that cross crease dive that he had. I mean, Jesus, he probably had those NHL players just saying, what do I gotta do to score on this kid? Now, he did have that one goal he gave up, which I kind of agree with the commentators. You can't fault him totally for it. I think he made the right call for coming out of the net that far to play the puck, because otherwise it would have been, I believe, a 2-on none. No one's back there with them. It was just that it was a bad pass, bad, luck of the pass, whatever you want to call it. And so the net was wide open, and that's the only reason why they scored. Otherwise, the way he was playing, he probably would have had the shutout. So we'll see if the Flyers could keep the winning streak going. We're sitting at 8 right now. We're going for 9 tonight. We play 7:30. We play the LA Kings, and the trade deadline is next couple weeks, so be curious to see, is Wayne Simmons going to be on the Flyers? I know some of the names I saw were Gostisbehere, which I don't think you're going to see him moved. Radko Gudas was another name. As much as I like his style of play, I like the physical play. I'm not one of these speedsters that just want to skate around. I like the real good hits, stand up for your team when there is a bad hit, and that's Gudas. I could see him getting moved. I'm trying to think some of the other names that you may have seen, but they're the three main ones that I saw stick out. But moving on to last Saturday. If you guys were following me on Twitter at the show's Twitter handle, ST Sports Podcast, I was live tweeting Bare Knuckle 4, USA versus Mexico, down in Cancun, Mexico. First thing that stood out to me was they were outside. They were in a baseball stadium, and me and the fiance were watching it, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it's a huge stadium, so they only had a couple thousand fans there, probably, because they were all set up on the grass. But overall, I thought the pay-per-view was a very good pay-per-view. We even watched the prelims a little bit. They still have some kinks to work out, I think. There was a lot of audio problems. I know at one point, the one commentator, Tarver's mic wasn't working. You actually heard him talking through the other commentator's mic, picking up his volume. Still has that, if you guys used to watch ECW, the ECW feel to it, where it's kind of like not college production, but they're still doing it the right way. They're bringing in not totally over the hill fighters from UFC, Bellator, boxing, but they're bringing in big enough names to keep the sport going till it really catches on to the younger fighters, which there was a younger fighter, boxer, and I'll tell you what, he was impressive. When I go through the rundown of the card, I can't think of his name right now, but once I see it, I'll remember it. He actually reminded me of Karate Kid. But one of the fights was Leonard Garcia versus Julian Lane. Now, I remember last week when I gave my picks, I actually had Julian Lane because I figured Leonard Garcia, who's from UFC, was a brawler in the UFC. And towards the end of his career with them, he started to get knocked out a lot. And they usually say when you start getting knocked out a lot, you're going to be very, very prone to being knocked out more often. And you know what? I was almost right. It was a very good fight. Julian Lane actually did drop Garcia early in the first round. But then, Garcia got up, and they just started going at it. And in round 2, Garcia ended up knocking out Julian Lane. But yeah, he actually didn't knock him out, but I mean, he rocked him pretty good. He rocked him enough that the ref had to call it. And he actually, Leonard Garcia is the 165-pound champion now. And I don't think I said that last week. I thought it was just a regular 165-pound bout. I didn't think they were going to name a new champion. Speaking of champions, my girl, Beck Rollins, once again has retained her 125-pound belt, which I'll tell you what, that belt, I love it. It has that old, 1700s, 1900s look to it. Not like the UFC's new era belt or whatever they're calling it. I like that old look to it. But this Beck Rollins fight against Cecilia Flores, another entertaining fight. Now, if you look at this fight compared to Beck Rollins' first fight, it seems like they're finally finding some good competition for Beck Rollins. She's not running right through them. Even at one point, the one punch that Cecilia landed actually broke Beck Rollins' tooth. And there's pictures on Twitter. If you follow Beck Rollins, she actually posted. And this is why I like her. She even asked some of her fans if they had the video of when she actually spit it out. Like, not to be gross, but that's actually kind of funny. Like, she is very interactive with the fans. But this one did go the full 5 rounds. I believe this is definitely the second fight in a row for Beck Rollins to go to a unanimous decision. But still entertaining fight. I mean, she did bust up Flores. Her eye and mouth got swelled up. Possibly broke Flores' nose because she was bleeding pretty good out of the nose. But like I said, it was a good fight. That was, I believe, the co-main event. And then the other fight that I was looking forward to, I thought it would have been a repeat of the first one, was Tony Lopez versus Joey Beltran. I don't know, maybe if I got really pumped and excited for this fight because the first one was such a slugfest. You know, a lot of cuts on both their faces. This one, you know, Tony Lopez was definitely relying heavily on his jab, and it was working pretty much the whole fight. I think Joey Beltran, from what I remember, I actually had a 3-2, Tony Lopez, but when it came down to the judges, it was declared a split draw, which, again, you know, maybe they did it to set up a third one, which, you know, I'd be okay with. Even though it wasn't the slugfest that the first one was, again, it was still a good fight. It was still entertaining. I mean, you know, when you got two 265-pound guys, you expect them to have maybe 3 rounds before they're completely gassed out. These guys were pretty well in shape for how big they were. I definitely would want to see, you know, a third fight. One of the other fights that I was looking forward to was Chris Lytle fighting again. This is his second fight in bare knuckle boxing. He went up against JC Lamas in the 175-pound division. And I was expecting what happened to Chris Lytle in his first fight with an early knockout. But, man, was I surprised when I saw Lytle get hurt early. But he was smart because he clinched up, tried to get his whereabouts back, and it worked. You know, he recovered. But this one, again, went the full 5 rounds. There was moments where they slugged it out with each other. Definitely the last round, Chris Lytle came out swinging bombs, hoping to knock out Lamas. But in the end, again, Chris Lytle won by a unanimous decision. Not sure, and you know, a little side note, I'm not sure when the 5th bare knuckle fighting is going to happen. But again, I'm definitely gonna get it. I think you guys should. I think it's definitely an up and coming sport. Another heavyweight that I think is an up and comer is another fan favorite and a favorite of mine, Sam Shoemaker versus Joel Paradis. I thought Sam again was gonna Joel out because he made the comment that he was going to come out and try to defeat his 18-second knockout record, after losing in his prior contest to win the heavyweight belt. But first round was pretty much a feeling out process. I can understand that. Both guys have power. You don't want to get into a slugfest with guys have power because one of the guys is definitely gonna get caught. Second round started, same thing, a little bit more of hooks to the body for Shoemaker. One landed right before the bell sounded. Then in the third round, it seemed like Shoemaker kind of started to feel a little more comfortable, start throwing the jab a little bit more, and he was definitely consistent with it, where Joel was pretty much playing defense. And maybe that's why it cost them the fight. Maybe they looked at Sam as the aggressor compared to Joel. But again, this is a new combat sport, so you don't know how people are going to judge this, because they may judge boxing different. Obviously they're going to judge boxing different than MMA, even though when you stand up it's still boxing. So it's curious to see how they're going to keep judging this, as long as they stay consistent, though. That's the one problem with MMA. There's no consistency across the board. The other fight that happened was another former UFC fighter, Joe Diesel Riggs, which was his first fight with bare knuckle, going up against Rudo Tovar. Joe Riggs, he won the fight by unanimous decision. And I made the comment on Twitter about this when they announced that Joe Riggs won, and what they were doing after every fight was every fighter got a medal, one for USA, one for Mexico. And he went up to, I'm assuming probably the athletic commission member, and asked, can I put the medal around my opponent's neck? That's the other thing I'm starting to love about this sport, this organization, is every fighter has respect for each other. Yeah, they could trash talk, and I know, I made the comment last week with the whole Conor being suspended because of his trash talk for his last fight, and the commission is going to start suspending and fining people for their talk and stuff like that. But yet now you have an organization that has fighters in it that respect each other, and they look like, as sick as this sounds, they look like they enjoy this sport, beating the crap out of each other. If you watch UFC or Bellator, and 90% of those fighters are going to trash talk all the way up, and even do something after they knock out their opponent. It's not like the old days with the UFC where you would have the fighter go over to his opponent that he just knocked out, or he just submitted, and make sure they're okay. But it was nice to see Joe Riggs to do that. I was expecting, again, another knockout, and I think I'm going to have to start tempering my feelings for the knockouts for this sport back a little bit, because as I've been reading about this, you would think without the padding on your knuckles, no gloves, nothing like that, you would be able to knock out people a lot more. But the problem is, you're not going to be throwing as hard because you're more afraid of breaking your hand, which happened to Crazy Horse, I believe it was 2 pay-per-views ago. Broke both his hands, and they had to call a fight because he couldn't go on no more. But they're still entertaining fights, whether they're going to decisions or not. just like this one. This one was, a pretty good one. But in the end, like I said, Joe Riggs won by unanimous decision. Now, one Mexican fighter that I gained light years of respect for was Diego. I'm gonna butcher his name. I feel bad because he was a hell of a fighter. Garjo. He fought Tom Schoaf, which they fought on the first pay-per-view, and Schoaf was winning that fight until Diego connected on one punch, knocked him out, ended up winning the fight. So this was the rematch at 165 pounds. Now, Tom Schoaf won by TKO. But let me tell you, he knocked down Diego, I want to say 3-4 times. But as soon as Diego hit the mat, he popped right back up. He's looking at the ref like, yep, let's go. Come on, I'm good. And the round that he ended up having the fight stopped in, Schoaf connected, and Diego's jaw, cheek, just exploded. It looked like he had a baseball in his mouth. It was just sticking out there, and I'm sorry to be gross and descriptive, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, how is this guy still fighting, still pushing forward, still coming to try to win this thing? And he ended up getting a cut above his one eye. Ref called it, or called timeout. And I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna take him over to the doctor. Doctor's gonna see that jaw. I mean, I thought that the cut wasn't that bad, but I thought the doctor would see that jaw and just call it. Doctor said he's fine to go back in, and it was announced that the ref was more worried about the cut than the jaw. Diego, I believe, got knocked back down for the last time. Gets back up. The punch that connected made that cut a little bit bigger, and that's when the ref called the fight due to the cut. But that jaw, oh my God, it was mangled. If you have a strong stomach, I'm pretty sure you can find it on the internet somewhere. But I'll tell you what, next time Diego fights, I mean, he's got to fight one of my all-time favorites for me to go against him. I will never go against him no matter how many times he loses. He showed a lot of heart, and man, was he a tough son of a bitch. I think the only USA fight that was lost was against Alejandro Solorzana, and I believe this guy, from what I remember, all he was doing was smiling, and it was kind of funny. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was this guy, because the Eric Leander, he came out swinging, and within 30 seconds he was gassed. He looked like a bodybuilder, whereas Alejandro looked kind of like just your normal bar guy. I mean, yeah, he's 265-pound division, but in the end, he TKO'd Eric Leandra. I believe he was all kinds of cut up. It was pretty nasty, pretty bad. The one guy that Alejandro reminded me of, and this is for the MMA guys out there, he kind of reminded me of Bigfoot. From a couple years ago, who was in UFC, was close to almost getting a heavyweight title fight, then lost, and then he's been spiraling out of control now with losing streaks anyways. But he reminded me of him. He's tall, lengthy, and that's all he did to win this, which he just kept throwing the jab, and it worked, And the last fight from this card was Travis Thompson versus Ivan Roca in the 135-pound division. Travis won by KO in the second round. Thompson was throwing hooks right off the bat, connected pretty good. Roca just didn't seem like he was able to come out of it when some of these connected. So, I mean, again, the whole fight overall, if I had to give the whole fight, the pay-per-view, a grade, I would say I'd give it a B. I mean, you know, again, I guess maybe I should stop trying to compare it to the first one, because I mean the first one was definitely an A+, very exciting, good fights. But yeah, it's definitely a sport I see not going away anytime soon. I'm excited to find out when the next pay-per-view is going to be, because again, I'm going to be all over it. I'm going to be live tweeting again when it happens, and I will probably be one of the first ones to announce when it is. And they also, just this past week, I saw, because I follow them on Facebook, they signed Anthony Rumble Johnson, which I am really excited for that one, because he's still young and he's a knockout guy. I know I should temper back my knockout feelings, but I think you could block whatever you want to block, he's going to punch right through it. But I think that's going to be it for this week's episode, or tonight's episode. I'm not sure how we should word that, being that, you know, I'll be recording tomorrow with Shoulders. If you head over to Twitter, you can follow me at Jimbo, ST Sports. You can follow the podcast at ST Sports Podcast. And like I said at the beginning of the show, head over to bellyupsports.com. They got a lot of articles on there for different sports. I'll be on there writing some articles. So every week, check them out. Every day, whichever you're allowed to do at your job or at home. You could find this show on iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify. I'm still looking for some other spots that we could throw it out there so we can get some more listeners and, you know, see how far we can take this show. But this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.